lovely people, welcome to my channel. My name is Primrose and what we're going to be doing today is learning a little bit about Wicca, and I'm super excited to be bringing you this video because I've wanted to do educational Wicca videos for the longest time. I am so excited. Are you excited? If you are, hit that thumbs up and do subscribe to my channel. So starting this new series, I basically wanted to start from like the very beginning, like taking it right back to the start. I have already done a video on what Wicca briefly is. It's really difficult when you're starting to learn a religion like from the beginning. So if you're brand new to Wicca, then don't worry, I'm here to see you through this whole path. I'm going to tell you everything that I know. I have been practicing for 8 years now. So for my very first episode, I wanted to talk about the representation of the god and the goddess within Wicca. I traced it back to the best starting point for this series, and I settled on the god and the goddess was the best place to start because they are the foundation, building blocks to what Wicca is, and they're at the very core beliefs of Wicca, and then also explains so much about things like the wheel of the year and the seasons, which will be my episode 2 hopefully. So I had to strip it right back, and to understand many aspects of Wicca we firstly have to understand about what the god and goddess is and what they represent. So their representation is a representation of supreme power, and that was split into two, which is the god and the goddess, and they are a representation of both masculine and feminine energy. The goddess, female, represents feminine energy, and the masculine energy is represented by the god, the male. And Gerald Gardner, who as you're researching about Wicca you will definitely get to know, he was seen as the father figure of Wicca, based his coven on the worship of the horned god and the mother goddess, which is what we're going to be looking at in more detail. So as mentioned, they represent the masculine and feminine energies, which are a form of divinity, the supreme god power, shall we say. And within Wicca you can worship many deities, you can worship as many as you want, you can work with as many as you want. However, the god and the goddess are seen as more supreme deities, and the reason for this is every deity that exists within the archetype god and goddess. So every goddess deity is resident within the true supreme goddess, and every god deity is resident within the true supreme god. So they're all aspects drawn from our supreme god and goddess. And there are many deities out there. There's many different forms of deities with their own personalities, characteristics, their own energies, and all different specifications with what they will help you do. However, if you have a deity that you want to worship, then you can use that deity as a representation of what the god and goddess is. So you don't have to have your deity plus the god and goddess of supreme power that you are worshipping to at the same time. They are a representation, they're an embodiment of what the supreme god and goddess is. And if you don't know what a deity is, then it's essentially a life force you would worship, you would give offerings to, you would communicate with in a safe manner, not looking at you witch talk, that would then work in partnership with you as a Wiccan or even a witch if you follow deities as a witch, and to assist you in your craft. So as mentioned, the god and goddess are representations of the masculine and feminine energy, and they are completely equal. No one is above anybody else. The god isn't better than the goddess, and the goddess isn't better than the god. They are equal because balance is one of the most important things in Wicca, and religion based entirely on a feminine energy or a masculine energy becomes unbalanced. So I'll just start by telling you about the god within Wicca. So within nature, the sun is represented by the god or vice versa, and in very old forms of Wicca he was often referred to as the Sky Father. He would be in control of the sky and almost like the universe. There's some debate whether he rules over the stars, which I think he does because they are also suns, and it's the sun process of rising and setting which is so important for the representation of the god. And if you think about what the sun represents, it represents growth and life. Without the sun we wouldn't be here, we wouldn't be able to thrive and be growing and, like I say, just thriving and loving life. There would be none of that. The god represents all of that and giving life and fertility, and there is such strong connections with the yearly cycle of plants and organisms maturing and then coming to harvest if we're talking about plants. So it's all in relation to the growth and the nurturing of things. Not only does the god rule over the sun and the sky, but he also rules over wild animals, so he can often be referred to as the horned god, and you might see depictions of him with antlers or horns, which further symbolises that connection between himself and what he represents and wild creatures and animals. The god also rules sex, so within Wicca it's not something that is taboo, it's not something that we shouldn't talk about or that is shameful. It's something that is natural. It's not something that should be hidden or should be a dirty secret. It is within nature, so we accept it within nature. We accept it within our lives. And with him giving life and being a representation of fertility and reproduction, it is essential within the craft to appreciate his representation and the circle of life, essentially. So symbolisms of the god can include swords, horns, spears, candles, brass, knives, diamonds, plus so many more. So do research in your own time other correspondences, and the symbolism can be reflected in your Wiccan altar by putting things on there that will represent the god and things to use in your craft. There will be a episode on altars and how to set them up, so don't worry, that will be coming, but that is what you would use that symbolism for. In terms of his animal associations, we have bull, dog, snake, stag, dragon and wolf, plus again so many more. He can often be spoken of as the forest hunter, and he rules over the wild animals, whereas the goddess is more your domesticated animals. So again, these are animal associations that can be represented in spell work or on your altar. Now for the goddess, so she is seen as the earth mother. She rules the earth and the fact that it can host life, if that makes sense. She is a universal mother for all living things, whereas the god is a thing that enables life almost. It's very much linked into the reproductive cycle, the life cycle and nature cycle. And the goddess can also be described as the triple goddess, which is what many people know her as. And as you'll soon see, she has very, very strong associations with the moon. That is what she represents. And the reason that she's called the triple goddess and is so strongly represented by the moon, because we see her as having 3 phases. So this will be the waxing moon, the full moon and the waning moon. Or in terms of her life stages, we have the maiden, the mother and the crone. And because she has these 3 life cycles, it's important to know that she is the giver of life and that she is all nature and the earth. But with giving life, she is also a representation of death and the end of life. In Wicca, it's not seen as something dark or cruel or anything like that, but it is a period of rest where we can recover and rejuvenate ourselves from a long life, essentially. So we'll just look at her 3 different phases. So her first phase, her maiden phase, or her waxing moon phase, is when she's depicted as a young, beautiful woman. She's strongly associated with purity, but also new beginnings and new possibilities. It's almost like adolescence, if I can say that word. It's like a new life is beginning, a new cycle, a new a start, a new period in a life, essentially. And then we come on to the mother or the full moon phase, and this is when she has entered now full womanhood and essentially become the mother of all things. So this phase is strongly associated with maternal caregiving, maternal protection and life-giving power, which is essentially one of the strongest forms of power. It is like bringing new life into the world. That is the strongest energy that can be put out into the universe. But it is also a great time for guidance and love. So a lot of full moon spells will be extremely heightened in power because it is a chance of giving life and energy into something. And then we come to our 3rd and final phase, which is the crone or the waning moon phase. And when you think of crone, you don't necessarily have the best thoughts come to mind. You think of a withered and old bitter lady, but that is completely not the case within Wicca and our goddess. So the crone is a representation of age and experience. She is at the height of her power because she has lived a full life of knowledge and growth, and she has a heightened sense of spiritual wisdom and intuition. So this is a great time, a great phase for psychic development, divination, dream interpretation, anything that heightens your magic essentially and your divination skills. So symbolism of our goddess includes a cauldron, cup, flowers, mirrors, necklaces, seashells, pearls, silver, emeralds, so many more. So again, perfect things to put on your altar to represent the goddess and to worship her. And then her animal associations include rabbits, which if you don't know have very strong connections to the moon and the phases and links to immortality. If you'd like a video on something like that, pop that down below and I can definitely do that for you. Other animal associations include bears, cats, dogs, owls, bats, and many more, so definitely look into those if you are interested in learning a few more. So what are the purpose of the god and goddess then? So not only do they function as part of the wheel of the year and the foundation to what Wicca is, they are a huge representation of the whole yearly cycle. They're the representation of the change in seasons, the change in day to night and new beginnings. So the whole cycle is massively important in Wicca. Not only this, within worship, within offerings, you can call upon them for assistance, as mentioned with deities that I spoke about earlier. So ways that you can connect to the god and goddess include being present at sunrise, sunset or moonrise, and to shut off everything else but to meditate in this time to try and connect with the god and goddess, try and visualize them in your mind, try and build a connection. Almost imagine, you know, as kids when you like get 2 cans and you put a string from each can and you talk to each other through that. That is essentially what you want to envision doing with the god and the goddess at these hours. Imagine a string looped around your heart or your soul or just your being, and that goes all the way up to the sun or the moon, and that is your connection to the god and the goddess and the energies and the earth that is all around you. And sit with that imagery, sit with the present and sit with how that feels. And a great practice as well is to, once you've done this, to journal like any thoughts, feelings, everything like that, because it's going to be great for your progression in terms of connecting with the god and the goddess as deities and as symbols. You can also definitely ground yourself connecting with those, so you might choose to be outside in these periods of time where it is moonrise, sunrise or sunset, and feel the light and the solar energy hit you and hit your skin, if that makes sense. So obviously you know what it feels like when you stand outside and the sun is radiating on you, but feel that energy at those points in time. It's great to do this in a full moon because it's usually so bright, and on a clear night just stand outside, and it helps if you put your feet in the grass. Like, that's something that I always do to ground. Close your eyes and feel the moonlight hit you, and it hits you in such a different way to sunlight. If you've never done it before, I would definitely recommend trying it, and just feeling that energy hit you is like how you cleanse crystals and how you make moon water. It feels like yourself is being cleansed in such a different way. It's incredible. So I definitely recommend doing that, and again, meditate on that, journal about that, and build this connection between the earth and nature and the cycles and the god and the goddess and what you are doing, and it will build this rapport, it will build this connection. Yeah, I feel like that is so essential to Wicca. You must be connected to your god and goddess. You must have some bond before you can move into Wicca properly. So yeah, I think I've spoke for long enough. So I know that was only brief. I have spoken a lot, but I really hope this all made sense to you guys. If it didn't, pop your questions down below. I'll try and answer as clear as possible. I know I suck at explaining things sometimes, but I'm trying to get better at that. I made notes. But other than that, I really hope that you've enjoyed this video. I really hope that you've learned something today. Thank you so much for joining me here today. It has been so great to talk to you guys about something that I am so deeply passionate about and have been doing for so long now. I will see you guys in the next video. Next time we're going to be looking at the Wheel of the Year and the Sabbats, so definitely like and subscribe and hit that little bell so you know exactly when I'm uploading. I upload every Monday and Friday, and I'm also extremely active on Instagram, so do go follow me at PrimroseDoe. I need to go get a cup of tea. I will see you in the next video. Thank you for being here. Bye. I have a memory like a sieve.